Hello and welcome to the Sacral Circle, where we are healing sexual trauma collectively and lovingly. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and I'll be interviewing women from all walks of life who have had to face a sexual tragedy or abuse in one form or another and triumphed over their adversity. On every episode, a guest will deliver inspirational support, words of comfort, and empowering healing advice. They'll courageously share how their experiences impacted their lives and what led them to face and conquer the blockages that kept them from fully reconnecting to their inner power and divine feminine sacredness. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast, The Sacral Circle. Just search The Sacred Stories on iTunes. To learn more about my coaching and healing services, visit JanieTerrazas.com. I want to thank our listeners for joining us today on the Sacral Circle, the self-love haven where we leave judgment at the door. And we are picking up right where we left off with the lovely Emelina Holland, also known as her medicine name, Moon Jaguar Sees the Dawn. She's a practical mystic, healer, metaphysical artist, and author. She's also the founder of the Sacred Flame Sisterhood Circle and various innovative, organic, and intuitive artistic expressions. So this is part 2. You do not want to miss part 1. There was so much great information. Thank you for being with me again today. How are you?
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes.
Janie, I'm really excited and I feel very grateful for everyone who is listening to us today and later, if there are many people who cannot join us at this moment, but are open to listening to our wisdom at a later time, I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, and I want to say thank you to Sacred Stories Media, who allows all of these episodes that I've done to be archived on their website. So if you go to thesacralcircle.com, it'll take you straight to the page. And, sometimes it's good to go back and listen to these again. All of the women that have been on my show so far have all brought such beautiful wisdom, and they brought their transparency and vulnerability and their heart, spirit, and their soul. And so this is a really special podcast. And I didn't even realize how much I was going to get from it in terms of my own personal therapy and my own healing walk, because a lot of times sex trauma, and you and I talked about this, it's very layered. There's a lot of layers to it. And so we had to be patient and as we go through this process. And one of the things we left off at, again, I don't know if I finished my thought earlier about part 1, but definitely listen to part 1 of our conversation. If you haven't listened to part 1, you can still listen to this one and it's all going to make sense. We left off with talking about balance and what balance actually means, because I think the context that you can bring to it, the meaning it has to you, and how you have incorporated the meaning of balance into all areas of your life is important to kind of share, because there's a grander scheme to balance, and it touches on the masculine and the feminine, and being able to use both facets of self as we go through this healing journey. This is such a beautiful space to get into.
And I also want to actually tie it to something else that you just mentioned, Janie. You did sort of mention again the whole thing about trauma and how that is something that, not unfolds, but dissolves in layers many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to just bring this part right here, because one of the things that I experienced was that shortly, and people who listen to part 1 will understand a little more about what we are entering into right now. But I do want to just rewind a little bit to say that I did share that I had I would say distasteful event when I was younger, when I was in 4th grade. But shortly after, somehow my dad heard me singing. I started singing. I found some kind of tape or something my dad had, and I started singing. And my dad heard me. He said, "Oh, wow, she can sing." And then I'm like, "Oh." And then he just allowed that space for me to sing. So even though I didn't have the understanding, or I didn't feel safe to speak up at that time as a child about the distasteful, dissonant experience I have had, I was able to speak up through my singing, or just sort of allow myself to be visible. And it was a way to kind of train my being to feel safe. Because
Wow.
anytime anyone experiences trauma, there are so many feelings involved, but safety is a big one. And as an adult, I taught creative workshops, and I remember experiencing this thing with my students where they were caught up with perfectionistic tendencies, with that idea of balance and being perfect and being static and stagnant. And it's almost like they were frozen,
Yeah.
afraid of making mistakes. And then from that, you could go into a different layer, and they were afraid of being judged, and they were afraid of being ashamed, and they were afraid of being seen. And then they were afraid of being rejected. And then they didn't feel safe. And I'm trying to help them learn how to express themselves and really share their inner world with others. But that was such a difficult task for many people because they didn't feel safe.
Gosh,
And so, go ahead.
that really strikes a chord with me too. And again, if you listen to part 1, you'll realize there's a lot of parallel things that we have in our lives, Emelina and I.
Yeah.
But in my moments of trauma, I took on the freeze and fawn, okay, but the freeze. But I was also a performer like you. Like, I was very involved in dance and talent shows and expressing myself, but yet and so the way, I guess I didn't even realize until right now how that helped offset some of the trauma and made you understand, like that just
Absolutely.
makes so
And
much
that was
sense.
very big. That was very important for me to mention. We just didn't get to mention it last time, but I wanted to, before I start talking about the dynamic dance of balance, at least the way it was to me, I wanted to say that when I was a child, I was, blessed enough to have had a father and a mother who were open to seeing my talents and my gifts, at least to the level that they were able to understand and support them. And so I started dancing. I was always dancing and singing,
Me
right? And
too.
drawing.
Me
I was
too.
dancing, singing, and drawing before I knew how to write. And so my mom took me to some kind of dance classes. My dad just made me sing everywhere he could. And then I was doodling and drawing every time I could, including in my classes when I was in school. It was a way for me. So even though I didn't have the understanding or didn't even feel safe, and I wasn't, in all honesty, I don't even remember what I felt. I just know that something had happened to me that didn't feel right, and I didn't know who to talk to or how to share it. And it didn't feel safe, and it felt kind of shameful in a way, in whichever way I sensed that to be at that age. I was probably 9 or so. And so, but I had this safe space, which was my drawings, or I was always experimenting with my dolls and dyeing their hairs. So my parents did allow me freedom to create and express myself in those ways. And as soon as I learned how to write, and I was kind of like a little older, probably 11 or so, I learned that I could write stories and poetry and possibly journaling. And I started doing that. I started creating songs and some poetry, and and it was a way for me to sort of share pain and insights and observations and questions that I didn't know who to talk to about. So it was a way for me to do that. But I was lucky. In my poetry was not something I shared so openly at that time. My art I did, and my singing I did. And there's one more thing about this that I want to express, because I believe it's important. At that time, I was painting and drawing, but then I started drawing, then I started painting. Then I was painting things that I was seeing and that everyone could understand because they were images from magazines and things like that. But then I was also experimenting with textures, and I was also experimenting with painting and drawing visions like spiritual messages that were coming to me and through me that were more surrealistic in a way, symbolic, very symbolic. And it was not like the traditional landscape that you see on a magazine that everyone can see. And at that point, I discovered that there was something that I could copy that absolutely everyone is going to love. So you can sing songs that everyone knows, right?
Yes.
But then what about when you start singing your own songs? What about when you start painting your own visions, your own symbols? And not necessarily everyone is going to understand them or like them. So then you start dealing with the whole concept of rejection, with the whole concept of authenticity, and people perhaps rejecting that authenticity because if you come from collective cultures, if you come from either religion or culture that is encouraging you to be in a certain way all the time or to conform to the group norms, if you come out to being different, then that it could be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to balance, this is what I learned. I didn't realize at the time that exploring all these creative expressions in whatever traditional ways they were being presented to me were helping me create a safe space for me to voice things and explore my emotions and process my emotions or my thinking or receive spiritual messages and wisdom. And then the next step was, okay, but now it sounds like I have free game right here to just be whoever I want. To communicate. Okay, so I've been singing, I've been communicating all these things, but now who am I? And then I started questioning those things when I was a young teenager. Who am I? And I started discovering who am I through these creative expressions, because where I grew up, it was very religious and it was very collective culture. And so I didn't have people that I can go to and challenge a specific paradigm of way of living. There were not that many, that could understand that what if we did things a little different?
I call it like you're going against the grain. You're going against everything that this world, this material world of duality and polarity has been telling us for as long as we've been in existence. Well, at least in our lifetime and for thousands of years, actually, these constructs around life itself. And when you deconstruct all of that, and it begins with that one fundamental question, is asking that who am I? Yeah, from a place of intention to discover yourself. That's why this is an exploration of yourself. And so that you can discover what you actually are. And you know what's funny is I wrote down, who am I? Right? When you said it, who am I? And then all of a sudden God was like, look at the word. The answer is within the question. And he made me, this is all while we're talking right now. He made me flip the am I, and it's the I am. You are the I, you are the I am. But first you have to even understand then you have to understand what is the I am. And then when you learn everything about what the I am is and all that you've been identifying with your own self that goes against the I am, then you step into the space of what you just said, which is the word that I've been saying for the last several months, like new game has begun. I am painting my reality. I am the architect and the artist of my canvas. This
oh my gosh, I got the goosebumps.
Oh my God.
When I was in middle school, I stumbled upon this poem by Amado Nervo. He's a Mexican poet, and there's this poem that is called En Paz. And I don't know it by heart, but I remember I was little and I'd read it, and he pretty much talks about reaching the end of his life and being at peace. And he does have a line that says, I am the architect of my own life, and I am at peace. And so I was just so freaking lucky that things were just coming at me in whichever way they were coming at me. And they were just answering this question for me layer by layer, little by little. And I began designing my own clothes. So when I was 15, I was teaching classes. I was teaching art classes to adults and kids, and I was going to high school. And then I didn't know how to sew, but I knew people that I could just pay really minimum, money. And I would buy the fabric and sort of design things with fabrics that were that I would resonate with colors I would resonate with, and create and design my own dresses. And I would dye my clothes also to change their colors. And I designed my prom dress as well. I was really on this quest to express who I am. And as I was discovering who am I, and I wanted to mention this because I didn't realize it. I was just intuitively doing things and going. And now that I have more knowledge and more understanding about what these creative expressions and what the things I experience mean, then I can look back and say, holy cow. So I was healing through creative expression before I had access to any therapist or any healing modalities. It was discovering the depths of my inner world and my spirituality through creative expression, through writing, through singing, dancing, and painting and drawing. And I was using different modalities that now science can tell you that they do have huge and various effects on our well-being and our brains and our heart and our nervous system.
And that makes so much sense because all of the words, everything that you just described, when you are in that space of creating, you're in a state of what they call like bliss. It's like this blissful where you lose yourself in whatever it is you're doing. It's very focused on what it is you're creating. And all of these things bring ease into the nervous system.
It is a type of meditation. It is. Yes. There's many practitioners now that in science that proves that it is a type of meditation. It's just like prayer, And but the one advantage that I do see about creative spirituality, that's how I like to call it.
It's beautiful.
Is that it allowed me to go through healing, and then it seems to me like I went through healing, and then it seems to me like I went through a discovery period. Mm-hmm. And then it seems to me that once I got that, I also integrated intentional creativity, where I began intentionally creating art, and I'll share more about this a little later, but I intentionally started creating art and writing specific things that I wanted to manifest within my own consciousness and in my life. Wow. And so I went like a little step forward where I felt empowered. And because I was able to see things manifesting in this physical reality out of nowhere, just from my inner world, it gave me that confidence and that trust in manifestation and creating my own reality to the best of my ability, because it's been a journey for me. I had to learn so many things, heal different layers later on as a young adult. Also, you make mistakes and then you got to kind of like clean up the mistakes.
Right, exactly.
So it's been a journey, but with that, I feel like I can introduce the concept of balance, because for women, I'm not necessarily sure for men, but and I'm going to dare to say possibly for men also, but for women, to feel safe, to express themselves and share their creativity, many times it takes deep healing for people to get there, depending on the severity of their traumatic experience,
Yeah, I totally.
It could be scary. It could be scary to put themselves out there, share that vulnerability or share their beauty and in their sensitivities. It may make them feel like they're just a prey for someone to just come and get them
Yeah, it's very scary.
they're seen.
And they I think also too, when as they go through this walk and they get the guidance and the assistance they need, we're able to help bring a deeper understanding to why it is that it feels so scary, and helping
Yeah,
them, and helping them sort of, like you say, like unravel or get to the center of
yeah,
like where it actually comes from. And then little by little, it's baby steps. And for everybody that
yes,
looks, we might have the same type of baby steps, and what worked for us might not really necessarily work for somebody else.
correct.
But that's part of the
Yes,
exploring part, is like trying to
yes,
find what are the mindfulness healing tools you need to kind of help you
yes,
out of this place. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Because everyone has a unique experience, unique path, different temperaments. And for me, when it comes to balance, I like to say that, gosh, I related it originally how these things started to play for me is that my personality, based on what I've learned and noticed, I'm an extrovert and an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm an extrovert introvert, right? And I noticed since I was younger that I needed space to express myself. I needed freedom to express myself and grow. But I also needed quite a bit of alone time for me to introspect and go within myself. Then, of course, I noticed that our menstrual cycle does also encourage that type of behavior with the way our hormones change based on what I've learned. When you are producing testosterone, you are more, you're using both of your hemispheres, but you are actually sort of doing like a left brain preference.
Mm-hmm.
You're going a
Yes.
left brain preference. And then as you are declining in testosterone and building more estrogen and progesterone, you shift from left brain preference to right brain.
Yes, I'm the same way. Like I'm more of an extrovert versus an introvert, but because I'm so expressive and I emote so much and I take in so much information and study so much, I have to be quiet and be still for me to process everything, and also for me to reset my equilibrium for how much
Mm-hmm.
it's like I need enough quietness and not even to hear my
Mm-hmm.
own voice, like not speak at all and just be
Yeah.
still.
And then, and just to kind of go back to the left brain, right brain thing,
Yes.
for me specifically, when I'm more into my left brain with testosterone levels, that's like the ovulation. And I'm actually more expressive, I should say. I feel stronger, more energy, more confident. And I may be introspective too. However, I can be more outward in a
Mm,
way. And
mm.
I'm very extroverted, and I can still connect with people, and I'm connecting with people in a more with more confidence, and I can be around more people. But when I'm on the right brain, I want more silence. I want to be a little more inside my cave, and I'm still connecting, but my level of connection or the nature of the connection is more emotional. I may want to cuddle more with my son. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
huggy, So
Yes.
I'm connecting in a more affectionate. That doesn't mean I'm not affectionate the other times. It just
Mm-hmm.
means that it's almost like when I'm during my ovulation period, I'm still cuddling, I'm still affectionate and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a little more of an outward extroverted flavor for me. And
Mm-hmm.
when I am during my premenstrual stage, towards the beginning of just the first few days of my period, I'm actually more sensitive. Things that make me happy will make me cry just
Yes.
out of happiness. I cry out of happiness. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be just feeling things deeper. And I'm still connecting with people, but I notice even my conversations will go more into the emotional realm right away. Whereas the other time, I may just be more discerning, more focused. During the right brain period, I'm more creative, more emotional, more sensitive, and that's what you get more of right away, if that makes any sense.
You know, I'm so grateful that you brought that up because I have noticed that out in my day-to-day life. You know, I'm always open and to being of service in whatever way I can. But when I get into conversations with people, there are times where it's like I go deep very quickly, very fast, and other times where I can not. But at the end of the day, nothing's ever real surfacey with me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I just understand how sacred every connection with every individual is, and like, oh, I can deliver light right now, but it doesn't always have to be through this big gesture or through words. You can do it subtly also.
I'm an artist, and I really respond to symbols. You know, symbols and metaphors it's the way the subconscious speaks. The subconscious responds. That's the language of the subconscious. Symbols and metaphors, right?
Yes, I call it having the shamanic eye. It's almost like having the eye of a child. So somebody can look at a light post, but I'm seeing like 15 different things within a fraction of a second of what that light post is to me because it looks like so many different things. That's why I can honestly say life is really magical because I cannot undo the eye that I've worked so hard to now have. And so yes. And I like that because this is what God has shown me and revealed to me about this world. And that is, look at all of the love around you. Like, look at this, just stop for a second, just look in front of you. And my eye was like, and I can look in a tree and I can look at the sky, I can look in a cloud and I can look at all this stuff, or even a car. Sometimes it's the back of a car and I see a face smiling at me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But it really is like this. And so anyway, I just had to say that I understand.
It's important. It's important you mentioned that because, you know, the sacral chakra, the womb, based on what I've learned, it is for women is the seat of the Kundalini. For women, is in the sacral chakra, the womb space. And the womb is also that sacral chakra, based on what I've learned and based on my experience, is also where that inner child healing, the inner child healing your emotional, I would say, stories are necessary for you to activate your psychic abilities.
I agree, so, 100%.
Yeah, so the sacral chakra, aside from, if you think about it, your ability to be sensual, to feel pleasure, not necessarily just for like a sexual experience, but your ability to have that emotional connection that is deep and pleasurable with life.
Yes, it's like with passion.
That's part of that sacral chakra work, you know, because everything is bio-connected, and we're talking about biocommunication, picking up waves and frequencies and seeing and feeling multi-dimensions of this life, where the little things that once used to feel boring to you are no longer boring. Everything is richer. And so we no longer need to be overly stimulated by, you know, all this loud music and advertisements and crazy world out there, because the simpleness of life is so much richer and it's deeper.
Yes, it's such, you know, as you were speaking all of this, all of these words are connected to awe, you know, that feeling of awe, like, wow, like this wonderment that children have every day. You know, it's like going back to the simplest things of life. Like years ago, I look at a ladybug and it's like a ladybug. Now, anytime I see a ladybug, it's like, oh my God, it's like the first time I'm seeing a ladybug, and I'm seeing it with a different eye every single time I look at a ladybug. As I was going through my journey, a lot of Native American type of knowledge and ritual was intuitively coming to me. So I naturally started to study it and learn more and more about it, and fell in love with it. And in that, nature is a big part of the Native American culture, and in the way that source, God, universe, like speaks to you, spirit speaks to you. And so anytime animals kept coming up when I would work on people, or flowers, or a type of tree, or even for myself or for other people, I started to research it. And so it's like, now that I've been looking these things up, now when I look at a dragonfly, or if I look at a bear, I see a bear, whether it's in a picture or, or in a video, I can never just see, oh, there's a bear. There's like all of the beautiful symbolism behind what bear stands for comes through.
It's a message.
It's a message. Yes,
an
it's
intuitive
medicine.
Intuitive message.
It's like a intuitive medicine, a message that has this medicine for you, and not medicine in the way that we think of it here in this physical world of like popping a pill, but like real soul sort of sustenance medicine that literally changes you on like an intracellular energetic level and opens you up. It opens up channels. And the more we open up the fluidity of our prana and our chi, then more intelligence, more wisdom can come through, more creativity. And so as you were talking about the chakra and the sacral chakra being sort of that holy grail, so to speak, that when we ignite it, I really believe that that's also, it's interconnected with all of our chakras, but there's something really significant about the inner eye and whatever that thing is within our womb, within our, vulva, within the vagina, and how that's also interconnected to our heart and everything else. But it does ignite your six senses, like your sixth sense.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So when you connect, just to rewind a little bit on that, so that I can I just want to add one more thing about balance and the dynamics of it, is that there are some studies out there that you can just Google research yourself, but the vagus nerve connecting, our everything, our heart and through the spine, it also has fibers and it connects through the womb. And so our nervous system is very, very important to consider here when it comes to like intuition, because when someone's nervous system is out of whack, it's kind of hard for a person to really tune in and listen to their intuition, right? Yes. And trust it. And so definitely the womb space, the sacral chakra is I would say a very special place for us women. And so anything that has to do with inner child work, healing your sexuality, healing your how you sense life, interconnection, connectivity, right? Creativity, all of these areas are in there. And once you can allow these energy to flow, then I believe there is this beautiful experience that happens where you are connecting your naturally given psychic abilities that are pretty much part of your intuition and your biology, right? That were only shut off because of conditioning and trauma and possibly other things, right? But once you're opening those psychic and intuitive abilities, and then you are channeling them through your experiences and everything you're sensing, in addition to your creativity, it's a great way for you to circulate spiritual wisdom that comes through biocommunication, that comes from the trees, that comes from the spirit animals, that comes from ancestors, that comes from future timelines, that comes from other dimensions that are here to support you always. Yeah. And the beautiful thing, and the one thing that is important to know about balance is that we gotta always remember to also stay grounded. Yes. Because you can't only stay in that place all the time and then neglect your house and then neglect your health and or neglect your relationships, because to me at least the purpose of being and living wholesome in a wholesome way with your body, with your entire body and all of its multi dimensions, is for you to be able to enjoy your physical life.
I believe that part of
Yeah.
igniting and healing all of this other stuff that we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes,
Yeah.
that once we acknowledge this well of water that has all that you just described, and then going back to grounding ourselves, it's pouring that water, that spirit, that awareness, that love. And how then do you bridge it into the day-to-day sort of life, physical life responsibilities that we have to accomplish here? And when you're able to bring that into it, then those other things, even though they can still be a pain in the butt sometimes, you can start to get creative and reframe. How can I feel differently about this activity that I need to do right now? You know what I
Oh my
mean?
gosh, totally yes. And let me tell you, just as you're mentioning that specific part, I'm doing dishes yesterday and I was thinking of you in this interview. And I had this huge smile on my face. And I was happily cleaning these dirty dishes. I kept feeling this deep level of fulfillment and gratitude for some other things that I was experiencing. And that's the way I was feeling. And when I was a kid, I hated doing dishes, I just
Mhm.
hated it.
Me
And then
too.
and so I'm thinking to myself the same thing you're saying. It's like, you know what? Also, I'm cleaning my bathroom is fulfilling.
I
Cleaning
know.
the dog poop is like,
I know, as I'm cleaning the toilet, I'm like, isn't that amazing that the water goes in a whirlpool like that? Before you know it, you're done cleaning the damn toilet and you're like, oh, okay, that's done.
exactly it. It's like the way that we feel and perceive life, it becomes different. And I have memories when I was younger, at a time where I was still sort of discovering everything that I was, and I still had questions, and I wouldn't say that I was fully awakened either yet, because there were some things that I was still frustrated about. And I can look back and then look now and do things that before were frustrating, or that I would feel very unpleasant for or about. And now it's like, not so bad. And actually, I'm quite okay with this, and I'm enjoying it. And it's pretty cool. And the way of feeling and perceiving life, and the way you trust life changes once you go through your healing. And I did mention in part one, I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. And that was a trauma that I didn't have a way to verbalize or conceptualize, because I was a baby. I don't remember it, but it was affecting me in so many ways. And there was this subtle fear, and there was a safety issue there that would show up in different areas, and has been a journey to heal that. But then towards the end of the healing of this particular event, one of my friends who does quantum healing, a really powerful quantum healing techniques, her and I exchanged healing sessions. And after I went through her healing session, it was like I was born again. I swear to you. It was like, tears. It was like, I have done some hypnotherapy sessions with another practitioner a long time ago, to help me heal and heal some layers of it. But it's almost like this was like the last
Residual. The
the last
residual.
residual. Yeah, like a memory. It really felt like a memory. It felt like it was not necessarily, it's almost like the trauma was healed, but the memory needed to dissolve so that I can actually fully embody everything else, all of the other work that I have done, and integrated and be solid and wholesome in my everyday experience. And once I had this quantum healing, then tears and tears and tears. And I felt like I was breathing. I was breathing, and I was safe. It was safe for me to be me, to finally be me completely. And that doesn't mean I wasn't me before. It's just, it's kind of hard to explain it, but if you've had those experiences where you were sort of being yourself, but you felt like a subtle energy that was holding you back, and you couldn't pinpoint it, right?
Yes.
So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that healing modalities and in experiencing healing modalities with the appropriate and proper individuals, because I believe that's important. At least to me, has been important.
It's honestly, it really is to me, and
It is.
everybody that I've talked to that has gone on this path.
Yeah.
We always talk about the individual that is us guiding you, them
Yeah.
being very pure, not pure as in, oh, they're
Unconditional.
perfect, but yes, it's that they understand unconditional love
Yes. Yes.
completely, holistically,
Oh, yes.
in its totality. Those
Yes.
individuals can hold sacred space, which is the type of
Yes.
space you need for what you're
Yes.
talking about to happen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so that's kind of what I felt. So it was not only her ability to do this amazing healing, but it was her space, her love, her unconditional love that opened just these vast portals for me where wherever I may have sensed that was holding me back, it was no longer there. And I felt this freedom,
Mm-hmm.
these freedom. I had felt and sensed freedom before, but this time it was just like a raven playing in the wind, up in the sky, just gliding and
Yeah.
playing and messing with the wind and just like swirling and then just doing all this. I just felt this playful freedom that in a much more expansive way that I felt it before. I felt it before.
Yes, but
But
now it's like more, it's
but
even grander. It's like,
expansive.
yes, more
Yeah.
expansive. And that's one of the things that I love so much
Infinite.
about life in general, for all of us, really. Once you get into this space, you recognize that the depth of love that you feel, you're like, when you feel like what you just said, right? The sense of freedom. And you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I felt this before, but I didn't realize I could feel even more free than I already
Yes.
was. And that's when
Yep.
sometimes I'll hear this whisper. It's like, I know, because it's infinite. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's infinite,
Yeah.
Janie. Like the love that you
So
feel, because there's times where I'm like, oh my God, I could just not feel any more love that I feel right now. This grace is just too insane. This is bliss. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden something
yeah.
happens. And the more you heal, the more you resonate with your authentic soul song. The song
Yeah.
that you really came here to sing and dance to, like what you were talking
Yeah.
about before. And then you decide to do it. And that's a scary thing sometimes, but when you do it, the
Yeah.
reward, it's like you step into the inheritance that we've all been given, which is like the kingdom
Yeah.
of heaven on earth. And now all of a sudden,
Yes.
heaven is, you literally have done all the, now listen, just because you bridge heaven on earth doesn't necessarily mean that now all of a sudden there's not obstacles and challenges maybe that you face. But the beautiful thing is now you float through them.
Yes.
You float and flow
Yeah.
without any resistance,
Yeah.
because you know that there's no point in being upset
In
about any
fighting.
of it. You can just, yes. Oh my God. It's
Yes.
acceptance. It's
It's
acceptance,
trusting. It's trust. It's trusting the process.
faith,
It's trust. It's feeling
trust.
safe.
Yep.
It's feeling trust. It's feeling that, you know what, this may look like funky right now, but my experience has shown me that there were times that things may look awkward, but then I was being saved from an even more horrible experience. And that something
Right.
better was going to come my way. And so it was okay to let go of that awkward thing, because something beautiful or more, supportive was coming. So you are flowing. Exactly. You go like, okay, the store is closed. I didn't know it was closed, but maybe it's saving me from a car accident.
Exactly. This is the other beautiful thing about when you start to get into this space of like full liberation and really stepping into your full empowerment and embodiment of the
Yeah.
I am within yourself. The reverence and the gratitude is always present, and
Yeah.
you get very clever. You become so skilled at learning how to reframe something lickety split. It's like my car got broken into not too long ago, and I had just gotten this new laptop.
Ooh.
And on this laptop, I had finally completed writing out these programs. So I finally did them all, and I didn't back them up. Okay, yeah. And I just bought the laptop because my other one went out on me. And for about an hour, I was like, okay, this is unfortunate, blah blah blah. But it's not. Even when I say it's unfortunate, I know there's something good in it. But I allowed myself to feel victimized, like they did take from me, right? But
Yeah.
then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Maybe they needed a laptop. They're going to open it up. And I had all of these tabs open on all the stuff I research. And I'm like, and then this friend of mine bought me these beads from this trip she took to Tibet, and they were like original from this really sacred place, and I love that necklace so much. And I threw it in my backpack that day when I went to the gym, and right away it was like, no, they need those beads, and
Yeah.
they're gonna open this.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, they need these beads. Maybe they'll open up my computer and maybe read something that I wrote that's going to speak to them. Like, just really
Yeah.
quick, I try to reframe it and just be okay with it. And then I
But it's
also,
true. It's
yeah,
true. And in all honesty, it really, I can totally relate with what you're saying. And it's happened to me where I go like, you know what? I lost this particular thing one time, like a necklace or something fell off. There is a person that is gonna walk by that needs this, and it was just the way the universe is circulating things to someone else.
exactly.
So I could definitely relate to that, and I feel that when you do understand the dynamic dance of balance of that sort of like the sacred masculine with the divine feminine dancing within your womb,
Mm,
it's a dance. And so it is almost like breath. It's like inhaling and exhaling. It's being introverted and then expressing that insightful wisdom that you um channeled or that you experienced during your introspection.
yeah.
It's about that giving and that receiving. It's about circulation, that dynamic balance that I was sharing with you. To me, it's about circulation. You're circulating, you're creating something, but then you're also releasing something.
Hmm.
And so that you are certainly um, trusting that you are always being taken care of, always,
Always.
always. And so you lost that $5, you lost that computer, but you're gonna find a way to always pay your bills, or you're gonna get like a new computer or technology.
One of my clients knew about what had happened to me, and they bought a laptop for me. And this is another part of my soul journey is accepting what comes my way when gifts are being given or somebody's wanting to help me or anything like that. Because I read something in a book that said to say if somebody wants to compliment you or give you something in this manner, if you
You say
say
thank you.
no, yeah, you say thank you and you graciously take it, because the love that you've given out and the help that you've given out is always going to try to boomerang back its way to you. And for you to say no to it is to say you are not worthy, and you are always worthy. You are always
Yes.
worthy. And
And
it's
that,
like,
again, that's part of that dynamic dance, that dynamic balance.
yes,
Receiving. Yeah.
yes, and receiving.
And the thing is, and just to just sort of wrap up, because I do
Yes.
want to make sure that I also share that chant with you guys
Yes,
towards
let
the
us
end.
do that, please. I feel like you've done such a beautiful job really going into this balance
Thank you.
thing and talking about that. But feel free to guide us in the direction that you would like to now as we start coming to a close. Thank you.
Yes, and I just wanted to invite our listeners to connect with me via my website. I do want to share a chant with you when we end this in just shortly, but I do want to invite you to connect through my website. I do have a few books coming up. I am in the process of creating some self-paced independent study courses that can assist with creative spirituality practices. And I also offer some healing sessions. I do implement energy healing techniques. And if that's something that you feel you would benefit from, if you would like my support, please contact me. My email address is on my website. And there are other great things that you can find on my websites, and others that are in the womb and birth canal at the moment. But so I just want to make sure you stay in touch. My website is www.emelinasart.com. To end our interview, I really would like to share this offering, and it is like a prayer chant song. It's called the Love and Prosperity Chant. And when I started writing this chant, or when it came to me, the intention was to bring to life a song that you can sing that can truly reinforce and imbue that sense of safety and inner security and freedom, for creativity and expression, and pleasure and joy for life. I'm doing it. I used the words that resonated to me, that spoke to me in a very intentional way. And I'm hope that this resonates with you, and or that you are able to sense or feel the love and the intention that I have put into the song. And if it's okay with you, Janie, I'll go ahead and start singing it. Is that okay?
Yes, for sure. I was just thinking, made this chant echo across everyone's heart and minds that are listening and those that are not listening, that it touches all of humanity.
Yes, anyone who has been intentionally, consciously or unconsciously calling for this type of prayer, may it arrive to their hearts through waves and frequencies, and through our loving, unconditionally loving intentions. Yes?
Yes, thank you. After the chant, we'll close out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everyone listening, and thank you, Janie. I'll go ahead and start, okay? If you feel comfortable, if you're in a private area, I would suggest that you place one of your hands over your womb area and the other hand over your heart area. Always placing your dominant hand actually over your womb, and your less dominant hand over your heart area, as if we are sort of like sending heart love or vibrations to your womb area. Time is sacred, time is infinite, time is on my side. My soul's callings are manifesting right before my eyes. I can touch them, I can sense them, I can feel them with my hands. I can trust them, I can set them free. Peace is in my heart. Time is sacred, time is infinite, time is on my side. Dearest source, my feet are rooted in prosperous ground. I see clearly and through the fog. I breathe freely with unshakable trust. Even when I may not know, I'm always supported across the world. I am loved, I am safe. I create my life with faith. I shine bright from deep inside. I hold my keys, my path is clear. In the day and night, time is sacred, time is infinite, time is on my side. My soul is guiding as I am unfolding, embodying vibrant life. The moon, the sun, and the stars dance the beats of my sacred heart. Water, earth, air, and fire, I am the tree of life. Time is sacred, time is infinite, time is on my side. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
It brought tears to my eyes, and I was rocking and swaying as I'm sitting here Indian style on my bed. It just was so calming, and it felt so virtuous.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you for saying that.
yeah, and it is time, and time is on our side, and we can create the life that's going to bring us, like you said, joy and prosperity. Your work is really important. I thank you so much for being on our show, and many blessings on all of the projects that you've already birthed and that are on its way. And thank you for officially being a part of the Sacral Circle Sisterhood.
Thank you.
Yes. And thank you to our beautiful listeners for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Sacred Stories podcast on iTunes, where you'll find other impactful, inspiring shows. Connect with me via our social media pages. You'll find us at the Sacral Circle. Your shares and likes are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. If you have any questions about my coaching and healing services, visit my website at janieterrazas.com. As we say goodbye, always remember to know your worth and continue to love and value yourself wholeheartedly. Peace be with you.